Few people have done it, but I've won the Indianapolis 500.
Hey, what about me? I won here twice, and I climbed the fence both times.
I won the race 3 times, and there's only 5 of us that can say that.
We won the Indianapolis 500 4 times.
Combined.
721 men and women have raced in the Indianapolis 500. 67 have driven to victory lane, while just 3 can be called a 4-time winner at the Speedway.
AJ has done it. He has won his 4th Indianapolis 500.
We had our good breaks, we had our bad breaks. I can't believe it.
The twin checkered flags come out for our second 4-time winner.
Lady Luck has to run in your way sometime, and this is one of them.
Rick Mears becomes the 3rd 4-time winner.
I tell you, we're just tickled with 4 right now. I never dreamed of even running here, let alone winning 1 and let alone 4.
They know A.J. Foyt from one race. And to me, this has been the greatest race in the world, because you got to compare this race like the Kentucky Derby. There's a lot of great horse races, but there's only one Kentucky Derby. There's only one Indianapolis 500. And would Roger Penske be well known if it wouldn't be for this race? No. Would Mario Andretti? No. Would Rick? No. Would Al? No. Would AJ? So that's what makes it so special to all of us, I think.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, when you come in here, and I'll always, every year, even though that we're not racing, I come in here race day, I still get the goosebumps. You know, the fans and the adrenaline off of them go to you, and you still feel it.
Back home in Indiana.
That's right. I mean,
I don't know. You can't explain it to people, because a lot of people say, well, what about it? I said, everything I'm going to tell you, you're going to think we're lying to you. You got to go there
to be here.
Am I right?
You have to be here to experience it.
I mean,
you really do.
You really do. It's a place that I think that just thrives. You thrive on it.
Yeah.
You know,
like I said too, a big part of it is because of what Indy is, and the city gets behind it so much, and the whole community, just every place is behind the speedway when it, you know, the month of May. And that's all part of the building, all the stuff, the peripheral stuff that goes on around the racetrack throughout the month.
And then look at the Holmans, like when Tony and them first bought this. Yep. Look how they keep developing the speedway to keep up with times going forward. I mean, because when I came here, all these bleachers down there were wooden bleachers. I think Al seen them, and so did Rick. And look at it today.
If you would look back at the pictures of yesteryear versus now, this family does not quit on making this the biggest spectacle in racing.
That's right.
It is a place that each year, just like now, the changes that they've made for the motorcycles to come and run. I mean, there isn't a limit on what they do to this place, and it's still the same racetrack as it was in 1911. It's just smooth.
Ornery as hell.
That's right, and ornery is the right truth.
It's got its own personality, like Rick says.
The family, the Holman family, has not quit on trying to make this the greatest spectacle there is. And it is, regardless. When they play that instrument that morning home in Indiana, I mean, it just vibrates me.
At home again in Indiana.
First time I walked into this place, the first thing that jumped out at me was how narrow this straightaway was. Because everything I'd seen on TV or pictures or whatever, you know, all 33 cars lined up 3 abreast, and it still looked like there was a lot of room around them. I walked out underneath the grandstands the first time and looked at this straightaway. I said, there's no way you can get these cars 3 abreast down through here.
Well, the bad thing about it was my first time, I was like, I thought it was wide. You come off 4 and you look, damn, that corner's tight down there. And I think all Rick and Al both have said the same thing, because it damn sure didn't look wide.
You just can't imagine what it's like to come down this front straightaway.
Yeah.
And we'll both say it, all 3 of us. And this corner looks like it just comes down and folds down.
It got awful tight, I thought.
That's right. And to say that you're going to go through there wide open, you got to talk to yourself a long time from about this distance on further down in there. And I don't care who you were.
Combined, they have 24 front row starts and 11 pole positions. Mears has a record 6 poles. Foyt started on the front row 4 times, and Unser led the field in 1970.
I don't think the pole position does anything but honor you beforehand, that's saying that you have the fastest car. When race day comes, it's equal. Man, you best not, as Foyt said, you best not make a mistake.
Get the race started clean, because it's a long day, and you know, it's been a lot of wrecks on the first lap. And like Rick said, the world's looking at you.
And you also knew that another more incentive is you knew that was probably the safest place to start.
Right, yeah.
You know, because if you started on the front row of the pole, if anything happened that first turn, first lap, more than likely you missed it. You missed it unless you caused it.
Mario hit me in the tail and spun me even before the green flag fell, and I run into Foyt, and I barely make it around crippled, and I get in, and there's Foyt standing there waiting for me. And I says, the car's bent. And, you know, I didn't want to, you know, I didn't weigh 200 pounds like he did, and I didn't.
I didn't weigh no 200 things.
I didn't look like a gorilla like he looked at that time. So I says, it wasn't my fault, AJ. It was the car's fault. It was Mario's fault. It was somebody's fault. Go ahead, him.
AJ Foyt, the first 4-time winner at the Indianapolis 500.
One of the best there is, because the man, as I just said, he treated you fair as long as you treated him fair. You race with certain guys that you know that when you race with them, you can race.
Like Al said, one of the best who's ever been around here. And I used to watch him a lot in the early years and, you know, try to learn all I could from him. And I think one of the main things with AJ is he was a smart racer. You know, he knew when to do it and when not to. Yeah, he'd run hard and press an issue, but he knew when to do that. He wouldn't do it when it wasn't necessary. He'd wait until it was time to do it and then do it. And that's one of the key things I think that I learned from him early on.
AJ Foyt, focus, win at all costs, smart, a little rough at the edges, but hell of a race driver. I might have had some differences with AJ over time, but I don't know if there's anyone that admired him as much as I did.
I have the utmost respect for his things that he's done, and the many years that he's run in Indianapolis is phenomenal. And it's a shame that a lot of the young drivers that come along don't appreciate how good he was and all the accomplishments that he's been able to accumulate.
It just didn't matter what kind of car he got in. If he showed up at the racetrack, you know, looking back in the history books, if he was there, you know, guys were worried. You know, they knew that he was going to be the guy to beat on this day.
AJ Foyt raced in a record 35 consecutive Indy 500s. He started 12th as a rookie back in 1958.
When they dropped the green flag, we're going down the back straightaway. And then going in turn 3, you know, cars are spinning and sliding. And I said, man, nobody said nothing about all this stuff happening.
Alicia loses control. It's Rathman. Bite bumps Reese. Reese is sideways, becoming a target for O'Connor, who crashes and goes up over him, finally coming to rest far down the track.
When all this stuff happened, and there was a driver named Pat O'Connor that helped me a lot. And then I seen him on the side of the racetrack, you know, where he flipped over and his car was burning. I didn't know if I was going to be man enough to do it, to be truthful with you. I was about ready to say, I'm going back home to the little racetracks. They can keep Indianapolis and all these big race cars, because to be truthful with you, I was petrified. My first year was pretty nerve-wracking. I had the hell scared out of me a lot.
AJ finished no better than 10th in his first 3 years at Indy. Then in 1961 came to the Speedway as the defending national champion. After starting 7th, he found himself in a late race battle with Eddie Sachs.
I did not know that when I got fuel that they didn't give me enough fuel. Something happened to our fueling rig, so they sent me on out. I was running with a light load of fuel, and Eddie Sachs was one hell of a race driver, you know, and he had a lot more really experience than I did on super speedway cars. And we raced very, very hard all day long. And I said, man, when they said late stop, you know, fuel, you didn't have a radio, you're looking at the signboard, and I'm wondering, what do they mean, late stop? I knew I was going to have to stop again. I said, man, I'm leading this race. I can't stop. With him running so hard trying to keep up with me, he wore his right front tire out. And I just couldn't believe it. One of them days, yes, I got it won. No, I don't have it win. And then there at the end, I win it again. Be truthfully, you pull in the victory circle, I'm quite sure I had tears running down my eyes like a big old baby. You know, I was just so happy and thrilled. Especially to know that I've qualified for Indianapolis all the years that I dreamed to listen to the race and then be lucky enough to win the race.
3 years later, he won his second Indy 500. It was the last front-engine roadster to win at the Brickyard. After taking the checkered flag twice in just 4 years, A.J. struggled in 1965 and 66 before another late race battle, this time with Parnelli Jones.
Only thing I knew that with Parnelli driving the turbine car, that he would really be hard to beat. And I knew the only thing I could do was try to run as hard as I could all day and hope something happened to him.
I feel in my own mind it's about twice the horsepower of what we're running. It's just hard to compete when you have a car that's got that much advantage. But I really feel in my own mind that it will break. I feel I have gearbox trouble.
And thank God it did.
Foyt was running second. I could have lapped him anytime I want to, and I said, okay, just back off now. It's the only time I used my head in the whole race, and I just thought I'd just stay there. And I was just, I mean, stroking it, and all of a sudden it just, like it went into neutral.
With just 4 laps to go, it'll be A.J. Foyt moving into the lead.
After Parnelli fell out, it looked like an easy drive to the finish line. But something happened on the way to the checkered flag.
I had a funny feeling. I was lapping some cars going down the back straightaway, and for some reason I backed off. I can't tell you why. And I backed off. I said, man, I got this thing won. I don't want to blow it. And then when I turn around and go through 3 and I come off of 4, cars are going all over. I said, oh my gosh. I said, what am I going to do? Well, I slowed down fairly while I was under control. It was all the smoke. I couldn't see nothing. So I pulled my car down in second gear, and I kind of scooted down the seat and held on hard. I said, whoever I hit, I'm going to try to drive them past the start-finish line. And when it broke out in the clear, I said, I can't believe what I'm looking at.
Foyt's only got a couple hundred yards to go, but where is he? There he is! He's running it through. A.J. Foyt will win the Indianapolis 500.
After a 7-year drought, A.J. returned to form, finishing 3rd in 1975, 2nd in 1976, and then winning his record 4th Indy 500 in 1977.
The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis.
And to see somebody win Indianapolis for the 4th time, I think that meant a whole lot to the crowd. At that time, you know, Mr. Holman rode around on the victory lap with me and instead of my wife, which it was a thrill to have him. And I don't know if that was the first time he ever rode with a Indy 500 winner, but I think he was very happy that I won it for the 4th time.
We had our good breaks, we had our bad breaks. I can't believe it.
It was a dream come true. It took me 10 years to get that 4th one, but if it had took 20 years, it was worth it.
I think as a teenager, I just wanted to come and watch, you know, and I never thought that I could be good enough to be able to come here and even attempt to take my test.
You really wasn't good enough, but you did make it.
Well, only because of, you know, since you badmouthed me like that, only because you stood behind me and helped me.
That's
so
right.
Now what do you have to say?
Good thing I'm sitting between you.
Well, the bad thing, Rick, I helped him, and then he broke all the damn records, so that kind of embarrassed me. So he proved out to be a lot better than both of us.
No, I didn't break him. I just tied you.
Oh, okay.
Al Unser, the Indianapolis 500 winners of 1970, 1971, 1978, and 1987. That's just like when Foyt, he came in my garage that year, my rookie year. And I'd already, it was the last day of qualifying, and I'm sitting in my garage, and I did, sitting down, had my head, you know, bent down, because I was through. In other words, there was probably 5 hours left that day of the last day of qualifying. He says, I'm going to run my other car, my second car. He says, if you're interested in running it, come over to my garage. He says, think about it. If you want to, come on over. Well, as he walked out, I followed him. It was, you know, I wasn't totally stupid, you know, and I just followed him over to his garage, and he says, here I am.
Back then, I think friendship meant more than money and sponsorship, because you'd work hard to help each other, where nowadays it's all it is, cutthroat, who can cut each other's throat. Back then you loved to race each other and you loved to race your friends, so I think that was one of the biggest reasons. Al and I have been friends for, I don't want to say how many years, but too damn many. And we're still friends, believe it or not.
Yep.
If I were a car owner, I would want Al Unser to drive my car.
When things were right with Al, he was the most untouchable human being I ever saw.
Follow Al, beginning of the race and all the way through, and you're going to be in the top 3. And that's it. I mean, he's just an amazing guy. How he would get himself in that position, because he wouldn't show speed until right in the end.
Al Unser finished 9th, 12th, and 2nd in his first 3 races at Indianapolis, and quickly learned how important it was to win at the Speedway.
The next morning, I'm walking along, and this guy looks at me and he says, "How you doing, Al?" He says, "What'd you do yesterday? How'd you finish?" "Oh, I run 2nd. I mean, I thought I was accomplished the world. But it woke me up, and it told me that they only know one place. That's the number 1.
Al achieved the number 1 spot in just his 5th race at Indy, driving for Parnelli Jones in 1970.
It was just one of those fantastic races that it doesn't happen in your career very often.
And I used to preach that to Al all the time. I says, you know, don't do like I did, you know, don't, you know, try to overdrive the car, you know, blah, blah, just do the race and do the best you can, you know.
I got going so slow, I guess they thought I broke down. And Parnelli was screaming up and down, saying, "Hey, he's not going to make it around." Well, you know, I was just taking it easy because I had it made. I could do what I wanted, but it was a great feeling, you know, to come down and know that that checkered flag is for you.
Al Unser, the checkered flag, the winner of the 1970 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
It was our day, you know, there wasn't anything that I couldn't do. I wanted to lead, you know, when you say I led 190 laps, I mean, that's an awful lot of laps to lead around here.
Al led just 103 laps the next year, but once again drove the Johnny Lightning Special to victory lane. Al started the 1978 race from the 2nd row, but didn't have high expectations of getting his 3rd Indy win.
I don't think in any way that we thought that we were going to lead the race. And all of a sudden, everybody just comes back to me. That's what we call it, you know. Whether I caught them or they came back to me, it doesn't make any difference. I was going by them. Huey Absalom, who was my chief mechanic at that time, he says, "You're running number 1. I said, "Oh, I couldn't believe that."
My dad's theory is to work as hard as you can to reduce these amount of variables to lead the last lap. He's the all-time lap leader of the Indy 500. I mean, second to my dad is Ralph De Palma.
Big Al had 4 straight top 5 finishes in the early 1980s, but in 1987 was without a ride when Roger Penske dropped him for Danny Ungaius.
I was offered many rides, and there wasn't anything that I really wanted. I just kept telling everybody, no, no, you know, and then when Danny Ungaius crashed, we didn't know that he had a concussion. And then the first weekend of qualifying came, and Al didn't get qualified, my son. So I said, well, I'll stay here and help him, because I was going to go home after the first weekend. Because I said, if you didn't get in the first weekend to get a good car, it just wouldn't happen.
Al Unser Sr. was available, and a good friend of mine at that point. I said, how about, you know, would you drive for us? And we had a March car sitting, you know, as a show car in the Sheraton Hotel in Reading. All it needed was an engine.
And he says, would you run my 3rd car? It's going to be a March, and it's going to be a Cosworth engine. It'll all be first-class stuff. And I didn't have to ask, you know, myself. I just said yes, instantly.
Al started 20th and would need to work his way through the field to get his 4th win at Indy.
I'm going along, and all of a sudden there's this flag hangs out. It's a move-over flag. And Mario went by me. He lapped me in 25 laps. I just came apart. But when you get lapped in 25 laps, that means you're sleeping. You know, and I knew that, so I got mad at myself. And he never passed me again.
And there goes Roberto Guerrero by Andretti's car. You see Andretti in the pits. You saw Guerrero come down the front straight. The leaderboard changes. Who's chasing Guerrero? Al Unser Sr. in car number 25.
Roger comes over the radio and he says, I'm going to pitch you early. for the last stop. We're going to put the pressure, and he said these words, we're going to put the pressure on Guerrero. I says, okay.
Roberto Guerrero is in. They top it. They've disengaged. He stalls the engine. Now, back the inertial starter. It is in. Roberto Guerrero fires again. It catches quickly. Luckily, they push him off.
And Al Unser picks up the lead of the race as Guerrero stops on the pits. The crowd comes to a stand. Guerrero sits silently in the pits.
And Roger told me right away, he says, his clutch failed, you know. He couldn't get, he stalled his engine. And it doesn't register at the time. It really doesn't. And I go by and he says, you're leading the race, you're leading the race.
Mario Andretti's car is all but stopped in the middle of turn number 4.
The yellow flag flies. That means Roberto Guerrero will move up behind Al Unser.
When that green flag came out, I put the metal down, the pedal, whatever they want to call it, and I never lifted, and I didn't.
And history is matched as the twin checkered flags come out for our second four-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, Al Unser.
But there's a case of steady driving by Al and just, you know, the opportunity to be in the race, and again, reliability won that one for us.
To win that race that day under the conditions that I came here the month of May, it's a storybook race, you know, that it just shows when your lady luck is on your side or the good Lord is with you upstairs, you're going to put it together. And with the team that I had and all the people around me, there I was.
I remember sitting on the wall after we missed the show thinking, well, maybe next year, you know, we'll have a little better car, better equipment. I'll have another year's experience under my belt, and you know, things may be a little different. I mean, I had no idea that I'd come back, you know, be fortunate enough to come back with Roger Penske on the Penske team, you know, with great equipment, and then to qualify on the front row was just, you know, that was unbelievable for me. Rick Mears, 1979, 84, 88, and 91 Indianapolis 500 winner.
When we were on a motorcycle ride,
yeah,
Roger Penske, we were running up there in the Colorado mountains running the bikes, and Roger walks over and he says, you think there's an airport here? And I says, well, I don't think so. Why do you want an airport? He says, I've had it. And he says, oh. Secondly, he says, what do you think about that Rick Mears? He says, you think I ought to hire him? And I says, well, Rick does a heck of a job. I says, yeah. I says, I think he's very capable. So it's funny, you know, how things all come about. And then he hires him, and then, you know, it was a thorn in our back because of Rick and Roger.
I followed him very close the next day or two of the ride, you know. If he crashed, I'd pick him up, dust him off, straighten his bars for him, you know, whatever it took. But it was just, again, one of those dreams, you know, fairy tale story. I never thought I would ever be here, let alone have, you know, somebody like that, like Roger, and that kind of equipment.
Rick Mears, calculating, clean, great guy, super racer, on the ovals especially, the man to beat.
Rick is one of the coolest guys you'd ever want to meet, and he's that way in a race car. You know, he knows what it takes, and he knows how to make it happen.
The best oval racer ever.
Rick Mears first came to Indy in 1977, but struggled and failed to make the field.
We had all kinds of engine problems, and you know, missed a lot of track time, and we just weren't quick enough, period. I'm sitting on the pit wall after making 2 attempts and scratching my head trying to figure out what to do next. And Roger's walking down pit lane, he stops, says, Mears, how you doing? I said, struggling here. I said, I've tried everything I can think of and just can't seem to get what we need. And he said the main thing is just don't put it in the fence. That's the main thing. And I'll try, all right. Try not to. You know, and then off down the pit lane he went.
The off-season motorcycle ride with Roger Penske changed his life and racing career forever.
Looking back, he was probably there to check on me, and which I had no idea at the time. We were getting the bikes ready one morning. We're parked pretty close to each other, and we started talking a little bit, and Roger says, I hear you think about driving for so-and-so next year. And I said, nah, I'm not, as far as I know. But I hear you're thinking about hiring so-and-so next year. And he says, no. So we talked a little more. Pretty soon he says, but I've got something in mind. He said, give me a call before you make a deal with anybody else. Well, needless to say, I about fell over.
Penske offered Mears a part-time ride to fill in for Mario Andretti, who was also running Formula One at the time.
I knew a part-time opportunity with him was by far better than a full-time with a lot of teams. So besides that, I didn't have anything else going either. But ended up, signing up and ended up running, I think, 10 races that year or something like that. And we won a few and been there ever since.
Driving for Penske, Rick qualified on the front row as a rookie and then won the pole and the race the next year.
I didn't really appreciate or understand what it took or what it meant to win this race. To win it the second time out, it was, it was still, hey, we won another race.
Again, reliability showed its class. Bobby Unser led, over 80 laps there for us, and had a gear go out, and Mears was there, as he always was, taking care of his car, staying out of trouble, and won his first Indy 500.
But here comes the checkered flag awaiting young Rick Mears at age 27. He has won the Indianapolis 500.
I don't know what to think, really. It's just, I can't even imagine what this is. I really can't. I've got to wait and give it time to soak in, I think.
3 years later, Rick would win his second pole position at Indy and battled veteran Gordon Johncock to the checkered flag.
He may do it.
Yeah, he may. He's that close. Look at that shallow line.
They're going to get the white flag. There'll be one left to go. As he moves a little time towards Johncock. Is he going to do it? The white flag out. This is the final lap.
Going down into the first turn. What?
Timing worked out, had him set up good coming off the floor. So I thought, why wait? And by the time we get to turn one, he's got a good half a car better on me. And he's going to come down. I know it and he knows it. I know it and he knows I know it.
Over the roar of the engines, you can hear the 400,000 people going hoarse. All right, no one has ever seen this before in Indianapolis.
In turn 3, I thought I lost it on the last lap, coming for the checkered flag. I was down so low that there was a bump there that I'd never felt before. And it set my car sideways, and Rick thought I was gone too.
We ended up able to get back to him. And, I drafted him as long as I could down the front straightaway, but I knew it was going to be short. I just pulled out, I guess, to make it look like I had a shot at it, if nothing else. But I was pretty sure we weren't going to get him.
Can he make a move at the finish? He's making a move! No! Not quite! Gordon Johncock has won the Indianapolis 500.
He finished third the next year and then dominated the 1984 race for his second win at Indy in 5 years.
He raises his hand in the air as he screams over the line. Rick Mears has won his second Indianapolis 500-mile race.
4 years later, it was an all-Penske front row, and for the second time in his Indy career, Rick won the pole and the race.
And there is the checkered flag. Rick Mears has won his third Indianapolis 500.
3 years later, Rick crashed in practice the day before qualifying.
We took him to the hospital. I remember he came back, could hardly walk, and we put him in the backup car. And he went out and ran almost as quick in the backup car, within 3 or 4 laps as he did in the primary. And he was hurting bad, but that's the kind of guy he was.
Roger said, you want to try it? I said, sure, let's do it. And so I said, let me get in the car first and see if I can push the throttle down with my right foot. And I got in the car, and I couldn't even push the throttle down. As soon as I pushed on it, the fractures, just like a hot knife inside my foot. I think about the second lap, I was about flat. And also I realized that if I left it flat, my foot didn't hurt. But if I had to move it, it killed me. So I knew the car would do it. But I didn't left it down for a lap or two, and we ended up, I think, sitting. It was our fast lap of the month. It may have been fast lap of the month.
And the next day, can you believe it, he sat on the pole and then went on to win the 75th running of the race in 1991.
That race meant so much, and for several reasons. First of all, I'd already been, considering thinking about retirement a little bit. So that may be, one of the last opportunities you get. So that made it special. And then to have a good shootout with Michael.
I was lucky I had my cousin John, and I knew he was going to help, and so I just kept my foot in it. I got a good toe off Rick, and John kept high, and I went right through the middle of him and Rick and had a nice move on the outside, and at that point I honestly thought I won the race. I really did.
Well, Rick Mears made a great move down low. He leads the way. Andretti's got him going into short shoot. He's a number 2, and Michael Andretti's got the lead.
next lap. I mean, it's like, where did Rick come from? I mean, he had all that power. I mean, he just blew by me like I was sitting still.
Now Mears goes to the outside, and Rick may have him. They move into the short chute. Rick Mears takes the lead.
I always geared for shootout. Of the four, that was the only one that shootout and trail eyes. And that's what racing's about for me. That's the fun part, having the shootout at the end and come out on top.
Rick Mears becomes the third four-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, winning the Diamond Jubilee edition, the 75th running of this great speed classic.
I always try to keep Indy as just another race because that helped me pressure-wise, but it's not just another race. You know, when you talk like that, it's like all of us could say of how many wins we could have.
That's exactly.
You know, each year you keep saying, or years past, you said, well, if.
Yeah, that's a big word to be so little.
Right.
Checkered flag for A.J. Foyt, the winner of the 1964 500-mile race. Unser, winner of the 1971 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Al Unser, the winner of the 1978 500-mile race. Rick Mears has won his second Indianapolis 500-mile race. Rick Mears has won his third Indianapolis 500.
It was just something with both of these guys, and I mean it not just because they're here. You know, we don't have anything to prove to each one anymore, so we can call each other what we want. But
too old to fight anymore. We'll just go have a beer together.
Yeah, they were fair racers. You know, but if you crossed one of them, that's right.
It's respecting each other. That's what it boils down to.
And that's one thing I see today. I don't think a lot of people have respect for each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell too when a guy's trying to use you. You know, a lot of people, oh, I didn't know that. That's all hogwash. You can tell when a guy does it on purpose and when it's accident.
It's respect, and it's also, to me, it was always wanting to earn the win.
Right.
You know, not, that's like blocking. That's one of my pet peeves.
I hate that. I'm glad I'm out of racing for that.
The black flag flew on the 9 car.
Not only did he get black flag for blocking, Tony Kanaan passed him anyway.
You know, if I have to block a guy to keep him from passing me, then I'm not doing my job. I should be able to get away from him. And to me, to win a race by blocking it or even a position. I remember he helped me my first win when you ran out of fuel at Milwaukee. He ran out of fuel at Milwaukee, and I got my very first win in an IndyCar. And I remember I ran into AJ afterwards, and I said, you know, I just don't feel like I won that race because I didn't want to win it that way. I wanted to have a battle with Al. And I wasn't that happy about my first win. Everybody saying, what's wrong with you? You know, you've won your first race. But anyway, I was talking to AJ one day, and I told him that, and he says, hey, believe me, he says, you'll lose more that way than you'll win.
Yeah.
You know, so take them any way you can get them, and it was true.
I told him, don't back up that pay window. Walk up there, both hands out.
When you run against the very best, don't be afraid to walk up to that pay window. Because your day will come the other way, and it'll happen
that's
to you.
part of earning.
Right.
That's the way you. That's the way you want to win a race. You want to earn it, and that's, to me, that's part of respect. And it's respecting yourself as well as the other guy, of trying to earn that win. And work your way by the guy, or you know, let him work his way by you.
You know, Foyt gets out and he kind of beats on the car with a hammer sometimes, and they have pictures of that too.
Well, I know it was hung in gear, and I was leading the race, damn it, when I come in. I was trying to tell them what to do.
We didn't tell you to beat it with a hammer, though.
I had to get it out of gear. My mechanics wasn't smart enough.
Beat the next one with the computer.
Did you win the race?
I ran second.
Oh, then you won it.
This racetrack is funny. And when you think you got it figured out, you do not have it figured out. And I don't care if you're an engineer or a driver or owner or what. It can come up and bite you. Am I right, gang?
Oh, it does that, doesn't it, Rick?
Absolutely.
I mean, at times you say, you can come out here in the morning at 9 o'clock or whatever times that we used to run and run fast, and you say, man, let me at them. In the afternoon, you come out, you've lost 5 miles an hour, and you sit back down and you say, gosh, I wonder what happened. And the mechanics are saying, what'd you do wrong? And you're telling them, well, you changed it, I didn't. It's a battle here.
I've had them on carburation day, and the car just be absolutely perfect. I'd say, don't even dust it off. I don't want you to touch it. Roll it over there and leave it alone. And then come out and, you
Drop
know,
the green race
10 laps into the race, it's so loose you can't hang on to it. You know, you just never know. This place is so big, so fast, and the speeds, it takes very little to change it. Very little temperature change.
I don't think the cars are as sensitive today where you got the ground effects it was when we had it, because that's one thing that plays in their favor, so don't let it change. But before, I'm kind of like them. The conditions change here, and you was out to lunch, and I don't care who you was.
The engineers have figured out, you know, aerodynamics a lot better than what we had them. When we came along, all of us right here, aerodynamics was just coming into effect. And small changes, they'd tell us, hold on, this one's really going to get you going.
Yeah.
Well, it was so bad you come in and, you know, the sweat's coming down and you say, well, I don't like that setup. And you don't know, you didn't know what to tell them. And today, with the computers and all that,
well, it's telling.
They can reproduce.
Computers are telling the driver what he's doing and everything else. Well, you didn't have that. You'd have to try to come back and talk to your chief mechanic, and then y'all sit down. But right now, somebody in my car, I can tell you exactly what he's doing wrong and how much brake he's using.
Now, couldn't you just imagine Foyt looking at a computer in his day of his best and saying, that computer's stupid? It doesn't feel like that. Could you, Rick? What do you think?
Yeah.
Could you just imagine him? Look.
I'm going to tell you what, it's still the feel of your butt in that race car. I don't care who it is.
That's the bottom line,
That's the bottom line.
When I talk to people, they say, how is the safety, you know, of the cars? I says, you know, when I came into this racing, I looked at the cars that they used to run. And I used to say, gee whiz, how did they ever do that? You know, they were unsafe. And the cars that we had at that time were so much safer. The engineers have done so much more. And it's still like that. The safety today, we look at yesterday's cars, and as this car is right behind us, and you just wonder how they ever did it.
The best there was.
Yeah, that's right. So safety, they've come along so much through tires, through suspension, through chassis, the carbon fiber tubs. I mean, Rick and I was talking earlier about the old tubs that came, you know, from here up. There wasn't anything but a piece of fiberglass there.
Or either the old ones when they had the fuel tanks.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing that used to scare me. I think at 66, I got burnt and I broke my back in 65, then got burnt in 66. And I'll be truthful with you, I didn't think I'd ever come back racing because you knew when you spun a car, you hit something, it blew up and was on fire. And I don't care what anybody says, I think fire is the most scariest thing in a race car. And both these guys have been on fire.
We got a fire there. You can't see it, but it's an outlaw fire. Look at people fleeing in every direction.
Today, I think that's what makes a lot of these boys as brave as they are, because thank God it's that much safer. Because, like I said, in 67, even though we won the race and we run hard and won the championship still, but every time that car would twitch, my heart just almost quit beating, because I knew if I lost it, I'm going to be burnt. You know, I got scars, they got scars. And
it made you not make mistakes.
It made you pay attention.
And you've never hit a soft wall, have you?
You know, like I told my drivers, I've hit that wall as hard as anybody, and I've hit it as easy. And believe me, it always hurts.
It doesn't make any difference if it's soft or hard.
That's right.
Well, we didn't have these soft walls. We had solid cement. But all of us have got very good-looking feet from safety.
Yeah, you know, you can talk about.
Well, I helped change that rule.
Yeah, I did too. And Al did too.
As the safety, as the engineers finally figured out by moving the driver back, Rick and AJ both would maybe still have good feet. Finally, the drivers have moved back, and you can look at them from the 86 March, how far forward we were, you know, and now the drivers are back, and their feet are saved a lot more, your ankles, your knees.
Behind the center line of the front axle, which before...
Well, before, when you knocked the nose off, your feet was out there, was going to bounce off that wall or whatever.
You know, we're talking about the safety, you know, since you're the first one that ever climbed one of these fences, you know, everybody's now, they win a race and they climb the fence. Yeah. Well, you didn't win the race.
I was climbing to save my butt. Everybody was still reckoning it wasn't a wave hero to the people.
You didn't wave to anybody, did you?
I wanted out.
Look out! Smash up at the start. Some cars get through. Drivers scrambled out of their cars before they stop rolling. A.J. Foyt scales a 12-foot steel cable fence to join the spectators. Amazingly, no driver is injured.
You know, a lot of these race drivers say you've never been scared in a race car. And I think these guys admit it. I don't think I ever ran even a little race or a big race that I didn't scare myself halfway to death at one time or another. So you hear some of these race drivers, they never scare me. I think they're kidding themselves. I could be wrong.
They're either lying or shouldn't be out there, one or the other.
I think they're lying.
I think I'm with Al and Rick. If they're not, they're awful damn brave.
You know, you get in one of these things and you fasten that seatbelt. You know, nobody ever knows.
Who'll unfasten it?
Nobody ever knows how bad you get scared, other than yourself. And to admit it, you know, it's finally a good thing.
To me, it was a healthy fear. It was a healthy fear. That fear is what kept me out of trouble. You know, it kept me, to staying within the limits.
You only made that mistake once.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they say, is there going to be a 5-time winner? And I will say that I think there will be. One day, that's what records are made for, is to be broke.
That's what I always said. Records are made to be broke.
Right. So, you know, it will happen.
For the 4th time in 11 years, Jeff Gordon, the winner of the 11th Brickyard 400.
While I'm very proud of the 4 wins that I have there, and I'm happy to be in history, and I'm happy that the media and other people say, you know, here are the only ones that have won 4 times. To me, you know, Rick Mears and Unser, AJ, those guys are my all-time heroes, and I don't care if I win 10 races in Indianapolis, I'll never top what they've accomplished.
A.J. Foyt won a 5th Indy 500 in 1999, this time as a car owner with Kenny Brett. Al isn't the only Unser to drive to victory lane at Indy. His brother Bobby won 3 times and his son twice, giving the Unser family 9 wins at Indianapolis. Rick Mears won his 4 Indy 500s in just 13 years, joining A.J. Foyt and Al Unser as the only 4-time winners in Indianapolis 500 history.
It just makes me proud to be a part of all of this. You know, if somebody mentions my name and even halfway includes me with these guys, you know, it's just a hell of an opportunity for me, and just makes me feel very proud to be a part of it.
When you get introduced, or you introduce yourself, whichever way it is, and you usually say, you're a race car driver, and they look at you and they say, oh, what do you race? Oh, Indianapolis. Oh, really? You finish? I said, yeah. I've won it. Really? You really won it? I said, yeah, I've won it 4 times. Really? You know, it really means a lot. In other words, I think that it just shows what this place is. It isn't that you're bragging on yourself, as it is that it just shows that when you have those numbers, it is something that just brings a lot of pride to yourself of being able to say it.
I never, ever thought that I'd be sitting here next to 2 guys like this, and, you know, I looked at the great Vukovic's and the Bettenhauses, same as I'm quite sure they did. Who'd ever think that we would be sitting where we are today? I'm quite sure neither one of them thought they would. I never thought I would. And it's just great to be amongst us, I think.
You know, they say, is there going to be a 5-time winner? And I will say that I think there will be. One day, that's what records are made for, is to be broke.
That's what I always said. Records are made to be broke.
Right. So, you know, it will happen. And when whomever it is that wins it, they're going to have to earn it. In other words, this place has a habit of not letting you win. You know,
it's ornery.
It's ornery.